Greetings all, it is Gleekon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. We are in the middle of 4 years before the Dark Portal. Stay a while and listen as we continue this. What we did on the last one is I'm trying to remember exactly how they phrased it, but basically Draenor is being destroyed. It's the fell energies that the warlocks are using and that has infected the orcs, turned their skin green. The pox on them is just blighting the entire land. The elementals were all but powerless, or at least they were like chaotic, and they weren't giving any of their power to the orcs. And everything was becoming, as you see in Burning Crusade, what that inspired the elements to do. The elementals, they bound themselves together into one mega elemental called Cyrukh with the power of all of them. And this one's called Cyrukh and the Breaking of the Elements. So my guess is, well, what the elements want is to destroy the orcs. They cut the orcs off. None of this will exist. So we shall see. After much of Draenor had fallen under the orcs' control, Blackhand commanded the clans to gather near the Temple of Karabor, the spiritual heart of Draenei society. And remember, the ogres were already very minimal on the decline, and they have since been recruited into the Horde. Same thing with the Mach Nathal. The Arakoa are just a very tiny remnant race down in the spires of Arak. They're kind of stay to themselves, and not that many people mess with them. And meanwhile, the Draenei have all of their settlements have been picked off, so they've pulled into just the Temple of Karabor and Shattrath. So if you're going to go after one of the two, the Temple of Karabor would be the easier of the two, and that seems like what we're congregating to do here. The assault would be the largest ever conducted by the Horde thus far. Blackhand believed that by destroying Karabor, the orcs could break the Draenei's morale. This would then make conquering the heavily fortified capital Shattrath all the easier. The Horde met little resistance as it approached Karabor. All seemed well as the orcs camped near a volcano outside the temple. Then, without warning, the mountain erupted in fire. Cyrukh took form in the heart of the volcano. The Fire Lord unleashed his elemental wrath on the orcs, and a roaring firestorm swept down the mountain and tore through the Horde's ranks. Cyrukh's appearance stunned and terrified the orcs, especially former shaman. Many of them saw the attack as a sign that they had angered the elements by embracing fell magic, and they are right. Also, I think this is that volcano right in the middle, dead center kind of the Burning Crusade version of the Shadowmoon Valley. We'll see. Gul'dan scrambled to forestall a catastrophe. If the warlocks abandoned the Horde, the orcs would never conquer the Draenei. In Cyrukh, Gul'dan saw a golden opportunity. The elements had gathered all of their power in one place. They'd made themselves vulnerable. Gul'dan would make them pay for that. He would steal Cyrukh's power for himself and for the rest of the Horde. And he would destroy the connection between the orcs and Draenor's elementals once and for all. Gul'dan gathered his Shadow Council followers on the volcano's slopes. None of them, not even those who had once been shaman, hesitated to perform the task at hand. That just shows how far they've fallen. The Shadow Council warlocks had given themselves entirely to the pursuit of fell magic. Together they wove an immense spell that flooded Cyrukh with fell power and shattered the being's physical form. The mountain roared in protest. Chasms tore through the earth and spewed forth rivers of fell and elemental energies. Gul'dan and his warlocks used these energies to infuse the other orcs with strength. Gul'dan had succeeded. The Horde's soldiers were now more powerful than ever before, and the last connection between the orcs and the elemental spirits had been severed. The fell volcano in Shadowmoon Valley would come to be known as the Hand of Gul'dan. And it's also why Shadowmoon Valley looks like that. It's just like fell lava everywhere, and then there's pockets of the different elementals. Clearly, though, he doesn't sever the elemental ties completely, because there's still the throne of the elements in the ground, and there still are orc shamans to this day. But for now, there are none. Until some go back like Thrall, I guess, and find the way. And it says he shattered Cyrukh's physical form, but it doesn't sound like Cyrukh is destroyed completely. And I think that is still called the Hand of Gul'dan in the Shadowmoon Valley. This is a picture of that Gul'dan destroying Draenor's elemental might. They've weaved this big spell. He is at the center of it all. I actually think that little altar that he used is even still there. All this fell energy sweeping out of him. Lightning in the background is pretty cool. And just blasting the mountain itself. That's pretty cool, because I think the mountain might be a manifestation or the physical embodiment of what Cyrukh was. And he just like shot lava and stuff and fire all over them. But they have ripped it apart. And that's why Shadowmoon Valley looks the way it looks. So we've basically described a big chunk of Shadowmoon Valley, the things that are becoming tainted. Now, we still haven't described, like, why did the Nether Storm become that way? Is Hellfire Peninsula, like, we haven't really gotten into the fact that Tanan Jungle is just wiped out to nothing. Terracore Forest, okay, we still have to at least talk about what happened to Ocean Nagrand. Nothing bad happens there. We don't know why the Zanger Sea becomes the Zanger Marsh, unless it's attributed to the in-game stuff where they talk about the Naga draining it. Then okay, that makes sense. So we can tab that one. Bladespire Mountains, that's fine. That's just sort of is what it is. But yeah, definitely the Nether Storm, Gorgrond, that area up there becoming the Nether Storm, that's got a story that we'll find out on one of these next episodes of Lore of Warcraft. Thank you so much for your time, for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.